To continue, with respect to Egyptological match of letter A, we see that Young says that letter A equals Ptah, because he was the maker of the hoe. That was reported prior to Young. Chambalan, however, says that Young means beloved, and it equals myrrh in Coptic. And he also says that because of the Alexander and Cleopatra cartouche, that the actual phonetic letter A is the vulture sign, or eagle, or sparrowhawk, among several other birds Chambalan had in mind. Gardner, basically just parroting Chambalan, says that the Phoenician alphabet is based on the ox head, and the ox head makes the glottal stop, or letter A. He also believes in the same brain that the vulture makes the glottal stop in Egyptian, which is something that's very difficult to process, that one person could run these three things through their brain, but so be it. Synopsis is that chronologically, Ovid says that A is the first sound out of the mouth of Harpocrates, in crude translation. Lamprey says that A is the baby vowel. Aphrodisiac says that letter A is number one is the male stoicheion. Sefer Yetzirah says that letter A is the air element. Kircher says that the hoe is the Hira alpha. Kircher says that the actual type of Coptic letter A comes from an ibis with its beak between its legs. William Jones says that A or at least words starting with a letter A in the common source words between India and Europe have to come from a common source. And then here we see me defining A as the plow, Phoenician A, and letter A. So now we're up to letter B. There's a little bit of blurry conflict because in Hebrew, letter B and presumably Phoenician means house. So Egyptologists in the last 200 years have been looking for a house symbol. For example, Gardner says that the O10E mansion temple equals letter B, or this O1 enclosure sign equals house, and that's the origin letter B. Prior to Egyptology translation, Bartholomew translated or mapped Phoenician symbols to Hebrew. And he said this is letter B. So when I first read Bartholomew, I said, oh, after I'd already decoded that letter B is the Egyptian goddess, I said, oh, that's the breasts, and those are her two arms. It was like a no-brainer. But for Bartholomew, he probably didn't know what these were. Likewise, Akerblad decoded these as letter B. Now, Israel Zoli, as we've touched on, said that letter B, or Beth, is a female body, breasts, and letter G, or Gimel, is a male body with phallus erect. And he says the alphabet is a chain of sexual symbols which render a cosmogenic anthropogenic theory. And these are reviews of his actual work, but in short, he says B equals female body, G equals male body, phallus erect. Some of the details of beyond this we don't really know, because the full translation of this 60-page booklet is yet to be found in English, and these are just reviews of his work. Jennifer Ball conjectured that because she lived in China for a while, and she conjectured that since the Chinese word for breast is this, Nea, which looks like two breasts, that similarly the Egyptian character for breast has to be breasts. So she conjectured that they were this sign, the bread loaf sign, whereas correctly D27 and D27A are the breast sign. But she was loosely in the right area. So here I am in 8 April, based on the pyramid texts. I didn't yet know what letter B was, but on 18 February A67, I mapped Phoenician B to the Bet or Nut stars of space goddess as follows. So letter B has to be over G. That was 3 years ago. Here we see B, G, and letter R. I also see B, and also here's the house of, so-called House of Horus, gives us the origin of our Hebrew, why letter B is called house. The phonetic is loosely that Harpocrates takes his mouth off his fingers and he says ah, ba, ga. So ba is the second phonetic of the child as it speaks, or the zygote. Here we see the cubit order. When we remove the circle dot sign, letter B or N1 moves to letter B. It's a pretty good map. Or if we have reduced cubit order, with the circle dot removed, we see letter B moves from the third spot to the second spot. And letter A moves right down here. The goose switches to letter G. So now we have A, B, or B, G. We have Ugaritic order. B is the third in the reduced cubit order, goes from third to second in Ugaritic order. Gnome order, not exactly clear over here where letter B falls on with respect to the second gnome. Geometric order is that letter B is number 2. The power of 2 is, or dynamic of 2 is 4, which corresponds to these 4 pillars of letter B, which will support the heavens, or the O30A sign. Which loosely explains why the O30 sign is often found as the 5th letter in the Phoenician alphabet. Here we see incorrect decodings. Frederick Gassina said letter B comes from a tent, loosely based on the Phoenician Hebrew model that B means house. Lenormand says that this comes from a half house. Isaac Taylor says this comes from a 2-chambered eastern house, and Gardner said this, we touched on. David Sachs says this letter B comes from a reed shelter. And here we see the evolution of letter B. And then the Egyptological match is basically a nonsense. Champollion arguing that the foot is letter B because he found a sign that's spelled Sabina. Young arguing that letter B comes from this incense bowl, which he believes spelled the B of the Bernice cartouche. And here we see letter G, which basically hasn't been filled up, but here we see this is the earth god. The foot corresponds to 16 digits on a cubit ruler, which is measurement, not letter B, measures of geometry. And here we see the evolution of letter G. From the earth god to this erection in Old Biblin, to the Phoenician G, Greek G, Etruscan, Latin, and then Latin split into C and G. Visually shown here.